Welcome back to That's God. I'm Summer.
And I'm Emerson.
And on today's special Testimony Tuesday, we have my father, the man, the myth, the legend. I think we said the same thing for your dad.
Oh, yeah.
But
Well,
my dad.
They're both man, myth, legends.
Man, myth, legend. Jeremy Ray. Woo!
Yes.
Wow.
I am so excited to have you on the podcast, Dad.
Thank you. Definitely, I'm moved with a lot of emotion and excited to be here. Definitely, the whole drive down, it just resonating, thinking about this moment, and just getting an opportunity to share, what Jesus has done for me and my family is. If you get an opportunity to brag about Jesus, and especially maybe it's going to reach out and touch, someone that could really impact. I mean, it's just so exciting. I used to get to do this over a decade ago a lot. I actually get to go out and, give my testimony and speak the word, and got away from that. So this is like, getting to do that over again a little bit. So I'm pretty juiced up, to be honest with you. So
oh yeah,
juiced up in the Holy Spirit way, because sorry,
No, it's okay.
this could happen. I mean, that might be like spitting and everything else here in a minute, but
Juiced up in a Holy Spirit way.
juiced up.
That's going to be your quote.
The quote.
shoot, there's no telling what kind of quotes may come out of this, because it's I took notes, but also this morning it's like 6:30. I'm drinking a cup of coffee and writing down some notes, and haven't given my testimony, like you said, in over 10 years. Well, that testimonies grew a lot over the last decade, and I was like, wow, all this, I'm just going to let the Lord kind of just run with this thing.
Let the Lord run with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Juiced up on the Holy Spirit.
that's it. I've got some bullets, but the rest of it, I'm just going to let him go, because
Perfect.
I don't want to I want to be as authentic and as real as I can be.
Yeah.
There'll be some raw moments in this, and but I'm not ashamed, because he changed me, he transformed me, and but yeah, we'll get going. So
Sweet.
let me back up
Well,
and punt and let you guys take
Back
it.
up.
No,
All
that's
right.
good. Thanks for coming down here and making this drive to do
Yes,
this.
for real.
It speaks a lot to your character, your willingness to share your
Well,
testimony.
Like I said, get to brag on Jesus, get to see two of my favorite people, and I get coffee afterwards.
We're getting
right?
coffee after.
I get coffee. Okay,
Yup.
so yeah, it's a win-win.
That's awesome. But so we always start with our testimony guests. If you have a verse or a passage of scripture that you feel like just supports your testimony, if you'd be willing to share that, explain it, and then you can just go into your testimony. Me and Emerson are going to sit. We're going to listen for as long as the Holy Spirit wants to take you. You know what I mean? We're going to be here. We might write down some notes, and we'll ask you questions at the end. But we're going to just give you the reins on this, so take it away.
Okay, excellent. So I've got several scriptures, written down. I'm not one of those people that I have just one or two scriptures that are just my favorite. I'm kind of that way even with my sports. I love sports. But I don't have a favorite team. I go with wherever I am in that season of life, and whatever really resonates with me for the day or for the week or for the season of life. And this morning, I just kind of just praying, Lord, give me, what scriptures do you want me to, what's relating to me right now in my life? And, Mark chapter 8, verse 34, and, of course, you can go into Matthew and different looks or translations. And but the short of it and, the main is, like I said, Mark chapter 8, verse 34, for whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's will save it. And I think about 20-year-old me and 24-year-old me when I read that, and you guys will see as I explain my testimony, I couldn't resonate with that, because the way I grew up, having to fight and claw and scratch, I just couldn't resonate that I wanted, I was just so driven, but driven for the wrong things, driven for the worldly things, right? And it just, I could never get my mind wrapped around that, again, for whoever desires to save his life will lose it. You got to lose everything that your flesh wants, right? And whoever loses his life for my sake in the gospel will save it. So you got to give up yours and follow him. And that's not the American way. That's not the cultural way, right? It's everything that the world, tries to tell us, and tries to guide us is completely opposite of that. But ain't Jesus so cool and ain't he so gangster in the sense that that his word is so different. It's so set apart. And I know.
Yeah, we do.
I told you I'm gonna have some weird little phrases. When I say gangster, I mean that in a cool way, right?
That's what we talked about that.
We talked about this, yeah. And we looked up the meaning of gangster, but there was a specific meaning that supported what we think. Like it's just cool.
Like the Lord has like one-liners. Like,
yes.
He'll go destroy. He's like, like I am He. Like, are you serious? Like
that's so
that's gangster.
So I like that.
That's so on point. But yes, I can, and I told you I'm gonna try my best to stay. I'm gonna try to stay in line here so I can, because there's a lot. So you want me to start kind of from the beginning?
Listen, you start from wherever you want to start.
Okay. Well, I'll just go right from the beginning. I love what your dad said in his testimony. The drug baby. At the first, I was like, oh, okay. He's like, well, I'm drugged to church, and I was dying over there. And,
he really got me on that one.
I'm just glad I heard it before, or else I would have been taken aback. Like, hey, pause. I didn't know this. But
that was so good. His testimony was so good, too. And, and that's the thing, too. I'll say this before I can really get rolling. You don't have to have a testimony like my testimony. You can have a more simple testimony, and there's somebody it's going to relate to that maybe falls in the same boat or the same line, right? And it's just, that's the beauty of it. I've heard people say that before. Well, I don't really necessarily have yeah, you do. You're writing one right now, every day. You just don't know it. I mean, our testimony is the bridge between me to you for us to have conversate about the real one, right? About Jesus. And it doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be short. Unfortunately, mine's long. Praise the Lord, though, that I'm here and that His grace has covered me from top to bottom with my big head down to my feet. I mean, it's been so good, and I'm so in awe of where I am right now. So I tell myself there'll be no tears fly. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
Let them fly.
Let them fly. It's that's one thing I like. I'm gonna quit talking about Big Mike, but I'm such a fan. I'm such a fan of him. And if you guys haven't heard that podcast, you got to go listen to Emerson's dad's podcast. Just such a man of God. And I got to meet him years ago, and I knew first time I met him, I was like, that dude's real. That guy's he's a real man in the sense he's a man of God. There's no world attached to him. I really liked him. And you guys might, hope you don't find this weird, but when I first met him and you all played together, y'all played travel ball together, but then the next year I think you played somewhere else or something.
I did.
But I always knew for some odd reason, this sounds weird, I just knew you two was going to link up one day. I really did. It's so, God put those things on us. Like, there's just certain things in life, and, it's like there's this old chainsaw. Something told me never to sell it because I'm going to have a farm. Sure enough, I still got the chainsaw. And there's just weird little things like that, right?
The chainsaw.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
It's
oh,
okay.
my gosh. That little thing, sometimes if you move the box, it, does that.
It's
So,
okay.
Sorry.
Keep
It's
flowing.
probably me shaking the table or something.
No,
like
no.
No.
But yeah, that chainsaw, man.
Chainsaw
You
story,
use
yeah.
it, yeah.
Still use it.
It's like those specific pieces of wood that you're never gonna use until one of the tables are uneven and you gotta slide it under there. You know what I'm talking about?
But I'm being serious. Like, you guys will see as you get older, Lord he'll speak to you about things. And but I knew you two would be linked up one day. I really did. So so here you are, and it's so beautiful. And I don't know what what the future holds, and it doesn't matter right now. The present is, you guys are just killing it. So kudos to you guys on that.
Thanks.
Okay, so all right, I told y'all I'm rambling. If I start going on a rabbit trail, just kick me. Nobody has to know. It's just right under the table. Just kick me real quick.
Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna kick you.
You can if you like. But yeah, so When I was born, I'll start just like Mike did. I wasn't a drug baby, but I was definitely not supposed to be here. It's funny. It's not funny. My mom, and her name's Janice. I call her Janice, and you guys will kind of see as we go through here. But I call her mom more now, but never to her face. And if she hears this, she'll probably cry. But it's been a rocky road. She didn't know she was pregnant with me until she was 7 months pregnant, and she fell out of a pickup truck, and she was very wild at the time of life. I guess it was in our genes, but she had a rough, upbringing, and everything from running away from home to she got married real early just so she can get away. And again, she was out, living that life, and got hurt falling out of the truck. Went the doctor, yeah, you're pregnant. You're 7 months pregnant. There's a kid in here. I guess they didn't know they tell the boy or girl then, but yeah.
There's a dude in there.
There's a dude in here. But
I'm sorry.
Way to make light of a
I
situation.
was about to say, wow.
you guys will see. I'll make a lot of light of a lot of this because I'm just so thankful. But I wasn't supposed to be here. So supposedly, I've never met my real father. Supposedly and I say that not saying he's not, but it's just kind of, it's weird. Always has been weird, but it doesn't really bother me. But he supposedly already had a family. He had a wife and a couple kids, and for some reason, him and my mother, made me. Shouldn't be doing that. And so again, I wasn't supposed to be here. I'm born out of all the wrong ways, right? From everything that the public would look at, it would be like, what is it? The Bible says you're a what? Everybody, what's it say?
What?
If a child is born like that, right? It's just not. I won't go down that path. Sorry, I'll back up. But anyways,
Wait, what's the word?
never mind. I'm gonna back up on that.
That's
It might be a little too dicey.
Hey, go ahead and tell us, and we can cut it out.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking
we will cut it
a
out.
bastard child.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that's okay.
See, I didn't know where
Okay.
we were going with that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
don't worry. Anything that you say and you're like, you let it sit for a day or something, we can.
it won't bother. I mean, I'm gonna put it all out there. You guys can cut what you need to cut out. Okay.
Okay.
But by all means, I wasn't supposed to be here. Things, he didn't want nothing to do with me because he had another family, supposedly. I was so young, I didn't know any better. My grandparents, at that time, my mom was trying to figure out life. She was very confused. And she just didn't know which way was up. And so my grandparents, they brought me home from the hospital. Supposedly my grandfather dropped me on right when I was coming in. So the odds were looking bad for me right out the gate, right? It wasn't looking good. But my grandfather supposedly dropped me as he was bringing me in, but it all worked out. Probably shouldn't be dropping newborns, but and my childhood, my beginnings, and like I said, I'm gonna, without getting into all the details, I'm just gonna try to hit the high points, through my early years. Living with them was great, and I was very spoiled. My grandparents, my grandfather was a Pentecostal preacher, so you can just tell all this is like wow. Right, Pentecostal preacher. My mom, who was my grandmother, I called her mom though. Her name was Jean. She loved to cook, and so she loved to bake. I'm sorry, maybe that's where you get some of that from.
That's what, yeah.
But my grandfather loved to cook. Everything's fried. So you guys know me today. That's just not who I am. But everything chicken, chicken legs, fried fish, what we caught right out of the lake. I mean. We lived on Harrington Lake. It was good living, as a young kid. But I ate way too much. Like I said, she really butterballed me up. I was very spoiled. I've become very I was very inverted in the sense of I didn't want to get out in public. I just want to stay home. I don't want to go to school. So then I started going to school, and they had a lot of trouble with me going to school because I just make myself sick. Purposely, so I didn't have to go to school, so I could stay home with them because I was so attached. So, and then my mom, she was in and out a lot. So I'm going to say, we're going to go with first grade, newborn. She was around all the time, trying to figure out life. And she married, right when I was born, she actually married a guy, and his name was Doug Ray. And that name went on my birth certificate, the last name Ray. But I don't have any kind of I don't have anything about him, knowledge, basically, of really much to do with him. I just took the last name. So I always tell people, they say, you kin of these Rays? I'm like, no. We just first generation Rays, baby. We a whole new breed right here.
First
whole
gen.
new breed.
Yes. We're gonna start something here. But so yeah, I took that last name, but so she was around, trying to figure out life. My mom wound up being married 5 times. And I hope she don't kill me. She's heard me give this away. She's heard me give this message away in person. But man, she's in such a better place now, and we'll talk about that at the end. But yeah, married 5 times and just trying to figure out life. And she has a good heart. She's a good woman. She just could never find the right person. And she was vulnerable in a world that at that time of life, it was a little tougher to make ends meet. So I'm not saying that all men or women might have done these things, but it was probably more of an incentive to get hooked up to help get through life, because you didn't want to live at home, but 5 times with all those men had all the same qualities. Unfortunately, they all like to drink, drugs, all that mess, right? And you put that into the same bowl with you got a bad recipe there, right? So 5 times being married. I'm at this point, like I said, through elementary school growing up, I'm really like I said, spoiled. I started though. I loved my mom, and I wanted to be around her too, and my grandparents too. That was my base. So I go spend the weekends with her, and things like that, and no matter where she was living at the time. And I started getting more attached. But then also I would see all the people the men she was with, and I seen things I didn't like over those years starting to build up. I was starting to callous my heart a lot of anger and things like that, and seeing how all that was. And then she wasn't living in the best places either. Some of them, she lived in this apartment complex, and it would be the projects back there. Boy, I got tough there quick. You can't go up there and play with the other kids without you're gonna get beat up probably a couple of times before the day's up. So I learned a lot there with some of those weekends spent at her house. But anyways, so the elementary years, like I said, being spoiled, being attached to grandparents, starting to go back and forth with Janice and staying there when I could. I was, like I said, I loved her, still attached. She loved me, and she knew. My grandparents took me to church, but at that time, church, I was crawling under the pews, and to be honest with you, I didn't have a clue. At that early age, I knew so. I mean, I was starting to get familiar, that there's a higher power, but my grandparents were grandparents. Sometimes grandparents they're not. There's a difference between being a parent and a grandparent, right? A parent needs to guide you, direct you, tell you when you're wrong. Mm-hmm. A grandparent's gonna cake. You know what I mean? I was that fat kid loves cake. I was that dude. I was really bad, and you guys probably gonna cut a lot of this out.
No, I'm keeping that right there.
But anyways, so I was going to church, and I just wasn't getting the the raising that I probably needed, because I was a wild child. I had a wild spirit to me, as you guys are going to see a lot more as I talk about it here. But I'm gonna just kind of graduate on up. Childhood, things really started to change for me, and this is really bad. 5th grade, 6th grade, I moved. So back then, my grandparents lived, down on the lake, and then Janice lived in town, and I was kind of going back and forth, and they all thought it was a good idea I'd go to the city school in Lancaster. versus the Camp Dick school. I can't remember exactly the real reason why. I know I got a couple paddlings before I left Camp Dick, but I don't know if I did something got me kicked out of there or what. But I went to Lancaster, and that was a big change. For lots of reasons. My mom, Janice, she worked at this little store called Mini Mart and lived up on the hill at the projects basically. And like I said, I'd go to that store, and things of that nature. I'm only in 5th and 6th grade. I'm the new kid. At that point in time, there was a lot going on there with society in general. So I went from the elementary school where this is bad. There was no black kids, right? I go to Lancaster. Majority of them were black kids. They become my best friends though, and I didn't know anything about racism, right? Mm-hmm. But I wound up at that point in time, that was some of my best friends, my best memories. Now they wasn't the best influences, but I got exposed to that. So I went into that, and we went in, you get bullied and you start fighting. So I'm fighting every day. I'm getting exposed to all this anger and hatred and racism and things I never really even been exposed to. I'm like, man, I'm just thinking back. I was so sheltered, I guess. Mm. Then you throw me in the lines then. And this is when it really got bad. So 5th and 6th grade, and I can't say this enough because, and this is something that a lot of grown men probably don't want to admit. All right, this is the rawness I'm talking about. 5th, 6th grade, my mom's working at this mini mart for years. All right, so you go to the restroom in the old stores like that. Back in the old days, this guys that are 40s, we can tell you, right? They would rent movies, right? Pornographic movies to the public. Mm. And that's how they rented them. You'd go in the bathroom and check a movie out. It's just the goofiest thing ever, right?
I never knew that. I did not know that either.
So people in their 40s, like they grew up in my era, they would know. Mm-hmm. Like them old gas stations and stuff. So the worst thing that a young boy can have exposed to his visual or in his mind, in my opinion, one of the worst things that can happen is you get exposed to pornography in any shape or form. Mm. Back then, it was the old VHS movies or magazines, because what you got a young boy, and you might think like, well, he's just elementary. But no, a young male going in from like 6th grade to middle school, that's a critical time in his life and his hormones and everything. Last thing you do is feed him filth like that, right? Because then he starts looking at women in a way that he shouldn't look, right? It creates all sorts of lustful stuff. And the Bible tells us, we have to, when it talks about lust, right? You've got to contain that. You got to hold those thoughts captive. But when you take that and give that to, a 6th grader, 7th grader, 8th grader, there's no, especially nowadays with our phones, right? There's no stopping it. It is such a tool for the enemy to run wild with our youth and our people today. And he did that to me. All right, it got me. And I had nobody to watch over me and say, what are you doing? I was hiding doing it, but it was, and it's like I said, a lot of people don't want to admit that. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, he was like a pervert. No, I was just exposed as a young man to the wrong stuff. Mm-hmm. So elementary into middle school, again, I've seen racism. I'm fighting all the time. I've been exposed to pornography stuff. I'm going back and forth between homes. My mom's in relationships she shouldn't be in. I'm around drugs, alcohol, abuse, mental, physical. I'm seeing all these things, being a part of all these things. In middle school, it really got worse. Thank goodness in middle school I played sports in elementary school, all the way up middle school, up into high school. And sports was really good for me at that time because that's the only thing. Because if I didn't have that, I don't know what I would have done. Because that was a way to kind of get away from it for that time. But it's still, when you went home, there was still your mind's still gonna go back to it. So, anyways, sorry. Childhood, middle school, I'm fighting all these things. I'm playing sports, doing all these things in life, but I'm falling victim to all the enemy's works, right? And and he, all that overshadows anything I did in sports. And I was pretty decent. Going even into as a freshman, I had some decent little speed. I wasn't the fastest, but I mean they would time our forward. That high school team was loaded. I was like a 4.5, 4.7, and that back then was fast, but there was guys way faster. So I had some talent, but I just didn't have no structure. The coaches loved me first year, but my going into from middle school going into my freshman year, when I say there was no structure and no discipline, they just got tired of fooling with me. They just could not continue to have to come find me or come get me. I'm just all over the place. So, they give up on that, and I they can only do so much. So that didn't work out. And I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but I will say this: back to that middle school years, I got exposed to. First time I was high was in 7th grade. First time drinking, 6th grade, right after I was getting ready to go into middle school. We was just exposed to so much with nobody oversight, nobody saying, hey, what are you doing? And I was hanging around the wrong crowd. People, you hear that all the time. Show me your crowd, I'll show you your future. My crowd was, it was terrible. And I was just doing all the wrong things with all the wrong people, right? And so, like I said, I'm gonna fast forward. I'm gonna go and get into high school. So I'm kind of trying to set it up for you. You can tell the elementary and middle school years were kind of rough. High school was basically on steroids rough when it comes to everything I was involved in. Because by the time my freshman year was over, I'm not even playing high school sports anymore. All I'm focusing on is chasing girls, partying, drinking, and I was completely out of control. It just blows my mind that I made it through, that I even got through high school. But I was totally out of control. So as the years went on, trouble started to mount, started getting a police record, started doing bad things. There was one point in time, it pays to have some good friends. We did some stupid stuff. It was just a matter of, this is just how dumb you get when you're teenage boys without no guidance. We took out like 70 mailboxes. Okay. And we had to go write an apology letter to all these 70 people and go up on their door and apologize that we tore up your mailbox. And that's a felony back then, right? Yeah. And that's a big deal. Well, we didn't get a felony, but we got like 300 hours of community service, cleaning high schools, working, and just crazy stuff. And just looking back, I'm like, what was he thinking? But then he was doing that, getting arrested for, fighting in public and drinking in public, underage drinking, and all these goofy stuff, and just, all this is going on. And again, my mom's still around, right? My grandparents are still there. And my grandparents would get so frustrated at me. My grandmother, I'll call her mom, but she when she get mad at me, she said that, call me, everything was that goofy boy. That goofy boy is going to figure it out one day. And she constantly, I remember them praying over the years and just telling me that she was praying for me. And I was just like, when you get so oblivious to it, it's like you're not even hearing it no more, right? It's just like, it's not even one ear out the other. It's not even going in your ears. It's just completely off. So anyways, we're going through high school and barely make it through, getting in trouble all the time. And then we kind of get into, let me look at my notes here real quick. So my last couple years of high school life, I had friends that we was getting introduced to the college life, and we're juniors and seniors in high school, right? We're at EKU, and we're at the bar scene, and they have all these bars on the town. It's like probably it's caused like half the people to flunk out over the years. We're there as juniors and seniors with fake ID. I mean, how do we do all this? I don't know, but it doesn't. Again, by God's grace, and just getting into so much sin and trouble and living, I was so lost. I was just so lost. Looking back on it now, as I'm reading this, I'm like, man, I'm just so lost. There was a police report. This guy, and the write-up was, I come up to the police officer and I didn't know where I was, what I was doing, and it states it like subject totally lost, completely intoxicated, and it was just like that was my life. I didn't have a clue where I was going, what I was doing. So yeah, we get through high school. All right, I skimmed by high school. And this is so lucky. So back then it was 7 periods of high school. My last class, English 4, I had to make a 72 on the very last day to graduate to pass, because my grades are terrible, and I had to, had to pass. I wound up passing by like a couple of points, but I mean, when I say I skated by, it was that close. Got out of high school, and then once I was out of high school, there was even a video like Project Graduation. It's like, well, what are you gonna do and be? And I'm gonna own a nightclub. That's what there's a video out there from the young 19-year-old me. I think I graduated, and I think I graduated old.
I didn't know
19,
that.
Yeah. Yeah, I graduated like 19 or something, because I was held back in like first grade. I had cat scratch fever of all things.
Yeah.
You ever heard that before? It's not just a song. It's actually.
I don't actually know like what it is, but I've heard of it.
You just get an infection by a cat, because I was really mean to cats. I like to throw cats in the lake when I was that young.
Whoa.
Jeez, yeah.
As y'all can see, this guy's a mess.
This goofy boy.
This goofy boy. That's it. But you're gonna see God's beauty here in a minute, because no matter how much of a mess you are, He can change you. And so here I am, graduated high school. I'm gonna own a nightclub. Yeah, right. And I didn't know what I was doing. I knew. I started working, which I worked through high school anyway. I had all sorts of jobs. Couldn't hold a job through high school because I stopped playing ball. And I didn't have an allowance. We didn't have money. We grew up pretty hard, and we had to go work. I worked so many jobs. I mean, from Shoney's to Wendy's to all those things in high school, just doing whatever I had to do. Construction work in the summer, did that more than anything. When I got out of high school, did the same thing, just trying to figure out life. I did work for an electrical company, and then work for construction crews where you make cash. And we blow all of our money by the weekend, though. Everything we made, we blew it, because we was just going out and still doing the same old thing, the same old childish stuff. I did have a nice car, and I don't know how to pull that off, but I knew, it's. I was so consumed with just, again, back to chasing the nightlife and chasing women for the wrong reasons, and the drug thing, I mentioned earlier, the first time I ever got high with weed was being around one of the men that my mom was with, and because I was right there in the circle, and that's the first time I ever got high at such a young age. And I will say this, let me go back to this real quick. Like I said, I'm trying to move through so I don't get too long. There was this one individual, though, through middle school, going into high school, and I need to really point this out. I didn't do it earlier. My mom wasn't even married to him, and to visualize it, he was like he looked like one of those guys off the Oak Ridge Boys or the Alabama, like the old country music song, like group or band or whatever. Does that make sense? You ever heard of them?
Yeah.
They got the beard and the hair and his hat.
I can envision it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, I did not. I don't have hard feelings now about him. I think, and matter of fact, he's passed. He's not even alive no more. At that time, I despised him with everything. Like I had such a hatred to this man that there's only been one time in my life when I was like, man, I'm gonna take him out. I can't do it no more. I can't handle his mental abuse, his physical, his being mean to my mother, and he was the reason I got into lifting weights at the beginning. When my fitness journey started in middle school, is I was tired of seeing people being mean to my family, right? So I had this old set of sand weights. Back then, it's sand weights and the bars like that thin, and it would bend, right? And that's how I started working out, which was really good for me because I had a lot of anger, and and exercise and things like that can help you with that for sure. But that's the only reason I got into working out. But he was, she couldn't get rid of him. Like she finally did to the man that she's married to today. She just said, enough's enough. She probably handled that the best way. I was left home with him, and when he found out that she's got another man, okay, and I remember having myself in my room like prepared. If this goes down, this is what's going to happen. Because he was bigger than me. I was getting stronger, but I also knew, I'm going to have to defend myself here. And sure enough, he lost his mind over that when he heard that. He didn't react the way I thought he would, but he did get pretty crazy for months and months on end, where he would follow her, or he would come underneath the house. She lived in a trailer. Like just stalking and all that. I mean, he was that over the top crazy. And the reason I'm pointing this out was for several reasons. I think there's a lot of people that probably deal with this. A lot of women that deal with that again, they don't feel like they're enough, or they don't feel like they can make ends meet on their own. So they tolerate an evil situation, right? You don't have to do that. There is help out there, and you can. At the end of the day, if you pray that Jesus will fix this situation, you're truly a believer. He can fix some bum, right? He's done way more than that. He's raised people from the dead. I'm sure he can fix some old guy that's got a mental problem. But it's, I think back on that and just thinking about how far the hatred and my heart was at that time in life, and looking where I am now and looking where I was then. It's just completely different. I'm so thankful that I've never felt that way again. But he was, like I say, just the kind of guy. He just wanted to. He would wake me up in the middle of the night if I didn't feed the dog, and try to yank you out of the bed, and you got just say some other words, and just that kind of nonsense, or picking up cigarette butts, and it's just he was just all over you, all the single to everything, just and just abusive and mental, physical, you name it. And I just had such a bad, again, I'm trying to paint a picture for you guys that how much anger there was, and again how much, as you can see, how much of a mess I was, and just trying to think of, when you put all that in a like I said, into one thing, trying to contain it, and I was just all over the place. You put anger, and you put lust, and you put drinking, and then hanging around the wrong crowd. It's a recipe for just total disaster. So, but moving back on up, getting out of high school, going into real life, I'm working and things like that, blowing money, still doing all the same old mess. All right. And so here's where, and I call it foxhole prayers, because again, as I got older, I was, my grandparents, and was, I went to some church services and things, but it wasn't, it was kind of starting to get in the ear a little bit, but just a little bit. But I also knew, when I say foxhole prayer is like, you've really messed up that night before, and you're just in the foxhole. You're like, man, all right, God, I'm not going to do this again. Never again. I'm never drinking again. I'm never doing this again. And I was doing it again by the next day. That's a foxhole prayer. And that's so many of those, so many bad decisions. And then I always knew, there was one thing that I always knew is, and I knew, I never once said, poor pitiful me. I never had a father. I never once, not one time. But I always knew I wanted to be a dad. All right. Even when I was chasing all mess, I knew that one day that I'm going to be a dad. And I want it more for myself and my family, than the way that I grew up, because I seen, like I said, just jumping back and forth, living, we lived in There was when I lived with my mom. That one trailer she got, and holes in it, rats in the roof. I mean, you go from that, and my grandparents, they was back and forth different places. I mean, I've been along that journey from having absolutely nothing to having a little to having a lot, and but I always knew I wanted more in my life. I was just tired of that. I was so tired of living in the world, and I knew I wanted more. Like I said, and I wanted to be a father, but I never once, and I still to this day, I even had people come to me that supposedly knew my real father, like, well, you should meet him and do, like, no, I don't want to meet him, right? Why do I want to meet them? They've never been around. I've got to be the man that I need to be. But anyways, I knew I wanted more, and life was starting to change. I was getting older. I was 20. I'm really bad, just like Big Mike said. He's not good with numbers and dates. I'm the same way. But so there was this a party, right? A field party on July the 4th, and my friend was throwing the party, and I went to it, and sure enough, where everybody's down there having a big time, and there's watermelon upside my head, and then but this young girl was there, and she was getting ready to turn it. She ain't turned 18 yet.
Yeah, you were 23.
I was 22, getting ready to turn 23. Yeah,
oh, okay.
Let's get it right, Summer.
Whoa!
I'm just joking.
I thought that you said you didn't know your age.
I knew that part though.
Oh, okay.
I'm just joking. I did know that though.
Okay.
Because this morning I was thinking about it. But yeah, she was 17. I was 22. I'm going to turn 23 in October because I met her in July. Mm-hmm. So we met and at that party, and you getting ready to say something? Mm-mm. Oh, okay. And the next morning I just knew. I was like, man, she gave me her number, and we talked, and it was just something different. Of course, she was beautiful and all that. I didn't look at her the way that I had looked before. Right? I knew in my heart that it's time, and if there's the right person, it's time. And sure enough, I knew she was young, and I knew, the odds were that I don't know how this is going to work out. I'm 22, she's 17. It's like 4.5 year difference. Mm-hmm. But anyways, it's okay. But Tiffany likes to remind me of that. But I just knew, so I called her immediately. The next day, she was and she had to go work at Dairy Queen. And man, I had to go see her. I was burning with love. Honestly, I was really in love. I wasn't burning with lust. I was burning with love, and I just knew. So I went there and ordered me a large dip cone. I love my dip cones, man. They were so good. And she, to this day, she'll even say it. She couldn't, she's like, she told her people she's working with, I guess, in a drive-thru. She's like, he's here, right? And I did have a cool car, but I don't know how I pulled that off. Probably don't want to know. I probably didn't even add that in here, but we won't talk about that. Anyways, I met her. So, July the 4th and December the 8th of the same year, we're married. So, odds are that usually don't work out, right? Statistics say that usually doesn't work out. Get married that fast. And a lot of people didn't think it was going to work. In the first year, we was immature. She would tell you this, and I was still immature. I was a little older, but I was still immature in a lot of ways, and I still had a lot of the same crowd around me that I learned I had to get them out of my life. She was immature because she, like I said, she was getting ready to turn 8. She's going to turn 18 the next month, So that wasn't even legal, was it? But
it's fine.
It don't matter now,
Look
right?
at us now.
I think her mom and dad are okay with it now. So
yeah.
But anyways, that's funny. So we got married in December 2001. So married December 2001. So this is kind of cool and kind of critical too in part of the story here. So hopefully I'm not losing everybody in the sauce here, but we got to it's about to really get good. If you're listening and you want to hear Jesus show up, just hang tight, because he's about to, and he's about to do it in a big way. So just hang tight. So December 1, we got married, or December 8th, 2001. Anniversary's coming up, actually. 2003 spring. So it's literally about a year and a half later. 2003, the spring 2003. So when I met her, her family went to this little church, little Baptist church. And remember, our grandfather was a Pentecostal preacher, so a little bit different style, right?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But you know what? I'm not a big denominational guy, you know, and I just love the Lord. And so started going to that church, and Brother Morris Trainer, and bless his heart, I think the guy's still the same age today. He's still kicking so good.
He's still, yeah.
Yeah, and man, he's done so much for the Lord, and he was so good to me. So good to me. And so I would go to that church, and his sermons each week pricked at my heart. I started going to Bible in the mornings. We would do
the Bible study, men's study.
There we go. My gosh, told you I had a total brain. Yeah. But anyways, we would do our Sunday morning Bible study stuff, and then go to service. And each week is just pricking at my heart. So the spring of 2003, I'll never forget it. You know, you'll hear people say these stories, and I heard your dad tell his testimony too about when he got saved. You know, I was the same way. I had this big black leather jacket that I loved. It was so cool back then. Mm-hmm. But the bad thing was that jacket, I also wore that jacket for many years of sin too, okay? But I was sweating like I stole something, and I'm about to get, you know, I mean, it was so, there wasn't even that hot in there, but I am pouring the sweat. My knuckles are white. I'm hanging on, and it's like I'm hanging on for dear life. And, you know, he gives the call to come forth, and I'd done it, and you know, in that moment, I give my heart to Christ, and it was such a special. It was Easter. It was such a special moment for Tiffany and I, because that was just such a game changer in our lives, and I credit that and him. We wouldn't be where we are today if I wouldn't have got it, and that's just if he wouldn't have saved me. Me and your mom wouldn't have made it, more than likely, because there's no way you can live in the world and live the way I was living and continue and have a marriage and kids. It's just, you can't do it. It wouldn't have been healthy. But he radically changed me. And when I say radically changed me, we're talking about a guy that listened to hardcore rock and rap and cussing, and you know, I worked in a company. You know, I had a good steady job. I did have that going for me at the moment. HVAC, which I wound up, you know, going into that throughout my years. But it changed everything. Like the very next day I went to work, like I'm on fire immediately. Like everything. Like when I say change, a radical change, like dude's looking at me like, what's wrong with him? And I remember a buddy I worked with, I got him in the elevator. I said, man, Jesus saved me. I mean, he's looking at me like I got four heads, and I'm like, I said, dude, I'm serious. You didn't come to church. Like, I'm on fire. I mean, fire for the Lord. And so God's good, and everything's good. My grandparents get to come and see me get baptized, you know, like a month later. And so they got to come and see that, which was a beautiful thing. And then at the same time, then we found out we have a baby in the belly. So
ta-da, here I am.
There you are. So Tiffany was pregnant with Summer, and the very same year, so I got saved in the spring. We got a beautiful baby coming, and then devastation hits. Okay, December 2003, devastation hits. So it's like, I'll never forget it. I was tired. I was watching an NBA basketball game, and I remember the game. It was the Sacramento Kings, maybe the Indiana Pacers. So it's like a worthless game. Mm-hmm. Right? Who's watching this at 10 o'clock at night, you know? And I fell asleep setting up on the couch because I'm dozing off. Back then, we still had the phones on the wall with the big cord and ring. You know, I had rings, right? Yeah. It's like 10:30 at night, And I get the phone's ringing. I start. I'm like, oh my gosh, who's calling me this time of night, right? And Tiffany's in bed, pregnant, baby on the way, and glowing. She was just glowing, man. She has such a glow when through pregnancy, so beautiful. But so I get this phone call, and I answer the phone. And it's my cousin's wife, just frantic. When I say frantic, just screaming on, just without she doesn't know what could be said or done. She's at the hospital and things and all this stuff. And remember, it's December, so I didn't really tell the backstory, but make it really short. Again, I'm trying to really make my whole testimony a little bit shorter. My grandparents had moved over with my grandfather's brother. Him and his brother are like best friends, and they've been living over there in kind of like the back house. Like they had made a little house for him and mom. And Robert was his name. He had a son named Timmy, and Timmy was full of the world, meaning full of sin to the top of the brim, overflowing, worse than I ever dreamed. He was on, just drugs and just all sorts of dark stuff going on with that fella. And he loved guns. He had an obsession with guns and things like that. So remember, this was December. In November, right before Thanksgiving, actually, just like we're getting ready to come up on right now. Bless you.
Sorry.
You're okay. We went to Thanksgiving dinner, and Mom, I remember Tiffany took Mom she took her one of those little tortilla shell things, little plates, and she loved it. She was so proud of that. And but she told us that boy was down there shooting guns that day of when everybody's eating dinner back there. It's kind of odd. Like, what's he doing? He never come around. Back there just blasting guns, and I wasn't really a big gun guy anyway. And she said that she made a comment to me. I can't remember who was listening, but I just remember she said it to me, and it was so clear. Again, that goofy boy, but it wasn't referring to me. She said that goofy boy's going to kill us one day, and I didn't really pay no mind to it. So fast forward a month later, I get the phone call, frantic. And sure enough, what he had, he just pretty much lost everything, lost his mind. Don't be tearing up on me.
This story gets me every time.
Yeah. He just lost it. And he went in and shot my grandparents, shot his father. And then he fled. And they wound up catching him in like E-Town, and the state trooper, so he got out and pulled on the state trooper too, and then the state trooper wound up shooting and killed him. So, at that point in my life, as you heard the backstory, all the mess and all this, I finally found Jesus, right? Everything's going good. God's got me. And then the one thing a lot of things I didn't tell you about my grandparents, I was really close to them. My grandfather took me fishing every day, and my grandmother, of course, made me fat with cake, and but they was the backbone of what family we had. Okay, Thanksgivings were there, everything was there. They was the only thing that was stable. The rest of them, it's like I call them a shotgun. They probably listen to this, but they know they shotgun family. They just kind of all over the place, but they was the only thing stable, and they were so proud of me. They got to come see me get baptized. Of course, they see me get married. They see the prayers finally started paying off. And then to have that happen, it was just a radical, just all that rage, all that anger that I had as a youngster, it all come back. Because then the enemy, he's kind of got me in a snare, right? What are you going to do? You're going to blame God? Are you going to let this turmoil break you? Or are you going to let it make you? Are you going to let it make you into something even more, right? So I struggled with that for, months, probably maybe a couple of years, to be honest with you. It was just trying to get through that. The emotional toll that had on us was I never had that before. And Tiffany will tell you that was hard for us as a marriage. But one of the coolest things though, the part of this testimony is, so the next day, I'll never forget it. I went over there and to the house where it happened the very next day, right? I walk in with my aunt's husband at that time, and everything was like a blur, you know, but I do remember this so vividly, right? I walk in and you see the blood on the walls and things like that, and but I go where my grandfather was sitting and where my grandmother would be sitting, and she also liked to quilt and yarn and stuff too, right?
Which I love to do too.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
It's kind of it's all kind of coming together.
I was
right?
about to say, I love to bake. I love to.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat.
But he had his Bible, which I brought his Bible today, you know, and it was literally laying on his nightstand. Can you grab it for me, Summer?
Yes.
I don't want to pull your cord out. The bottom one. There you go. And, you know, you can open it up. Go ahead and open it up right there. And the page that's ripped out back here.
Yeah.
That's the way it was laying. And here you go. I'll take it for you. Thank you. So it was hot. Uh-oh. Sorry, did I do that?
No. It has its perks.
So literally, Romans 9, verse 36. And you can actually go up and even start way up here at 33, but I'm going to go down to 36. My eyes are getting bad. All right, so no, for the scriptures tell us that for his sake, we must be ready to face death at every moment of the day, right? We are like sheep awaiting slaughter. You know, that's not something you really want to hear, but it's so true. We're like sheep awaiting slaughter, but despite all this, overwhelming victory is ours through Christ, who loved us enough to die for us. For I am convinced that nothing can ever separate us from his love. Don't matter if it's death, it's tragic, it cannot be separated. So death can't, life can't, the angels won't, and all the powers itself cannot keep God's love away. Our fears for the day, our worries about tomorrow, we're high above the sky or in the deepest ocean, nothing will ever be able to separate his love that God has demonstrated for us through Jesus, who died for us. So I still struggle with the anger and stuff, but I will say, if this wasn't, this is what I needed the next day. And it was snowing the next day, lightly snowing. It was really cold, and to see, you know, you walk in. Yeah, I remember things vividly, but I just remember this Bible setting just like it is right here and highlighted. I don't know why that page was torn out and highlighted, but that's God, right?
That's God.
That's God.
That's a God moment.
Yeah.
So I thought that was fitting for y'all's podcast, because God does those things, and, you know, nobody can tell me that that's coincidence. Nobody can tell me, you know, there's always a deeper meaning. And so God is, you know, that was just the beginning. Sorry. that was a beginning of something beautiful there, but it took me a while to get over that. And unfortunately, there were some family members of mine that to this day don't believe. And at the time, they did believe. Matter of fact, one of them, I want to say he was even in school, Christian musician, I don't know, something of that nature. But to this day, he doesn't believe, because he let that take him the other way. The anger overwhelmed him, filled his heart. He thought, you know, I don't know what he thought was going to happen there, but at the end of the day, how can you not read that and realize, you know, they've done their job here. They've been servants, you know, for all the years that we can remember. Been praying and praying and praying. They've got us to where they need us to be, you know. But I didn't let it. I just want to make sure it didn't, you know, that change, that helped get me through it. I did still struggle though. I'm not, you know, it wasn't easy. It was a struggle. But to this day, I even read it now. When I used to read it, I probably would cry a lot. You know, probably I did. I usually do cry. I'm surprised I'm not really flow yet. It might happen here in a minute.
I'm really trying to hold it in.
But that's definitely a God moment. You know, and then from there, my testimony continues, and like I said, I'm gonna get into some more here real quick, and hopefully, how long we've been going?
about an hour.
Have we really?
Yeah.
It's okay.
I told y'all
It's
gonna
okay.
be.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
perfect.
I haven't kicked you.
Keep going.
Okay. Who has? Was you gonna kick me too?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. You can kick me,
That's all
Emerson. You can kick me if you like.
I ain't kicking
would
nobody.
never. I would never.
All right.
Hey, you keep rolling.
Okay. So, all right, that happened. That was a radical moment. Me, summer came in June, and at the same time, this very next year, Tiffany lost her grandfather, who again was another staple to her side of the family. Her family was way more put together than my family when it comes to unity and bigger. But he was the dude, and he really was, and such a good man. He was good to me. But the very next year, that happens. And it was like, man, another tragedy, right? That happens. And then life was flowing, right? That happens. And then all of a sudden, we got another baby coming. We didn't know, and me and T didn't plan it, but it was literally back to back. So summer came. And then, man, we're just like, we're going to get pregnant as quick as we can.
Yep.
That's what we did. And what a blessing, it couldn't have worked out any better, with Summer and Bo. And looking on it now, well, I'll say what I was going to say until here in a minute. So here come Bo, right? And we got 2 babies in diapers. We got family turmoil. We're trying to, and we're still on fire for the Lord. I didn't let what happened break me. It bent me. It bent me good, but it didn't break me. I wound up turning it around and using it, and I would go share that testimony a lot with people. I even took you with a couple of me.
I went with you, yeah.
Yeah, even down this area, like Russell County and stuff.
It literally was. I think it was Russell County.
Yeah, so we would go and share that story, and people would that would touch people's hearts. So, but here's kind of where I'm going to go with this. So again, stay with me. Radical stuff happened, okay, but this is where hopefully I can talk to some more dads and families in the sense. You can have a radical movement of God, and you can get saved, and you can do these things, but the key is you got to stay steadfast, right? And even through turmoil and all those kind of things in life, if you don't stay steadfast, you're just like the parable of the seed sower, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to look at where your seed's been sowed. And what happened with us was our seeds got sowed. So you guys know the parable of the seed sower, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So first one is what? Is we put it on what soil? Rocky soil. And then you got weeds and you got thorns, and I may have just butchered it. We was the thorns though. We got on the thorns, meaning it took a while to choke it out. We was still planting it, and we never completely got away, but we was red hot. When I say red hot, I'm trying to save dudes on roofs of HVAC work. I'm trying everything, even going through all this. We was radically red hot. We knew we wanted more. And we even went to a new church because I just feel like I needed more. And some friends of mine been going to a church up the road. It was Assembly of God Church. And at that time in life, it's what we needed. I went in there and a pastor full of fire. Pastor Wendell Johnson, I love that dude to this day. He's still the same yesterday as today. I heard him on the radio the other day, and he's just still bringing the fire, man. And he's so good. And he was good. He was good for us at that season of life. And I knew I wanted more. Then I started reaching out even further, and I got tied in with some missionaries. We went to start going to Haiti and doing mission work, and got to see God move in a whole nother realm. Which you've done mission work, and you can tell. It's just when you go to where people are so hungry. So starving for it, right? Yeah. Not just the food, but just for the word. They're just looking for hope. It's a different movement of God, and I was getting filled with that. We spent 9 days in Haiti, went up in the mountains. I was with the medical team and doing evangelism, and that was all great and good. But when I come back, I'll be honest with you, I was emotionally disturbed, like for 3 months, because then I think looking back through, when I think about my whole childhood and the things I've been through, and mentally and emotionally, I was not ready even for the Haiti trip yet. So when I come back to my work, because I was running an HVAC company, it was hard for me to be able to show you empathy with people that live in the States.
Yeah.
And I become very raw, and I'm like, what? That's not me. That's not who I am. That's not who I am to this day. So I struggle with that, and again, that was spiritual maturity that I didn't have. At that time in life, I didn't need, this is another big one, I didn't necessarily need a mission trip. I needed more word. I needed to know my word. I needed to be really rooted. Mm-hmm. Okay, because you can get saved and you can do these things, but if you're not disciplined enough to get in your word and know your word and crave your word, then you can go do every mission trip in the world and go preach every sermon there is, and at the end, when it's all said and done, he's going to say, "I never knew you," right? Mm-hmm. It's biblically states it, right? You got to know him. You've got to have a relationship with him, and that's something I've really discovered over these last couple of years. Because what happened was, so as I said, we was on fire. Okay, and here's where it's gonna. I'm trying to land a plane. My softball girls love when I say this.
You're like our pastor.
What do you mean?
You're like Pastor Jay. He gets going, and he's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm gonna land it. 40 minutes later, not landed.
True.
And that's okay. Keep rolling that plane.
Keep rolling. Okay, keep rolling. There's some turbulence. Everybody hang tight.
That's fine.
All right. So again, we're on fire for the Lord, right? We're going to LFA and we're going to revivals. We're going on mission trips. Tiffany Mom's going on a mission trip eventually too, and Tiffany's such a good discerner of the word too, man. She's so good at that, and you guys get to talk to her. She has a very interesting and very good testimony. But we're on fire. We're going forward, and all of a sudden, life starts to happen. Okay, this is where I'm going with, where are you sowing your seeds? Life gets real busy, right? I got 2 kids that are both athletic, a father that loves athletics, a wife that doesn't. She could care less.
Band geek.
Band geek, yeah. Oh my gosh, you're gonna get in trouble on that one.
That's all right.
But we love the band. But oh goodness, you got me all off track.
Sorry, we do that to each other.
But yeah.
Busy life. You like athletics, mom likes band,
Yes. Okay, so life got real busy, but again, my faith was super strong. I had the Tebow faith, as that was what I would call it. I'm a huge Tebow fan, and my faith was super strong. But opportunities started coming your way, and this is what happens. God's so good, right? Mm-hmm. And He is. He's gonna give you opportunities like He's doing to you too, but you got to know how to maintain and how to manage those opportunities, and that's where I fail a little bit. Because opportunities started to come. I wanted to get into the business side of my business. Sure enough, I had been there for a while. Me and my wife, we'd been praying, talking about it, searching. I had an opportunity to go take a brand new job into the sales and business side of it. Mm-hmm. Well, crazy enough, one of my best friends there at my current company, one I stayed with all those years, he gave me a little inside information. He said, "I'm getting ready to leave." I said, "Man, you kidding?" He said, "No." He said, "If you want this job, I'm giving you a heads up." I'm like, man. And my boss at that time, he was like a father figure to me. I didn't have no father figures in life, but my boss, when I was a technician, was the closest thing to a father figure I ever had. And he was such a driver, meaning just push, hard nose. Jeff Fristow was his name. Good dude. And but anyways, a friend of mine told me, "I'm going to leave, and I know you want to get into sales and the business side. This is your time." So man, I was a big Tebow guy, and I'll never forget Tebow. He got beat, and he gave this speech about how that will never happen again. You'll never see nobody work as hard as me. You'll never see nobody do what I'm going to do. And I kind of mimicked that same speech, and I wrote out a letter, a handwritten letter, of why there's nobody in this company, nobody that you'll ever find that's going to outwork me for this position. And I promise you that, and I'll be your top salesperson. I'm going to do it. Soon as he sent the email out that this individual was leaving, I'd already typed up. it was already delivered within 5 minutes to him. And I got the job, right? I mean, how could you not? I mean, right? I mean, I brought the smoke on that one. But, so, and God had me in a position where my natural things that he created me to do was really flowing. If you ask me what are you good at, I'm not the best mechanic. I'm not the best at technicalities, but I'm good with people, and I can sell work. I can do business, and I can work hard, and I can promise you nobody's gonna outwork me. I might not be the most talented, but I'm gonna work hard. If you give me, that's what, if that's where I'm gonna be, and that's the setting that God, he give me that position, and I'm excited. I'm on fire. I'm still on fire for the Lord. All right, I'm still doing, trying to do God's work. But what happened was more success came. So remember, you're talking to a kid that grew up hard, that grew up in trailers and different things. I say hard, but when you go on a mission field, that's not hard. So I felt convicted just then when I said that. But in our American standards, grew up that way. And then me and your mom, our first home wasn't the nicest, but we loved it. It was just all we needed, But here come this big opportunity, and yeah, I'm on fire still, but then here come more success and more opportunity. Well, and then also my kids we're playing ball everywhere and every weekend, and I'm coaching middle school girls basketball, I think at that time.
Your boy.
So yeah, I'm coaching basketball, coaching bows, baseball. Still at this point, then I got promoted. My boss, my mentor, got fired. Good man got let go. Guess who got his first job? I got his job. And then I'm going accelerated. That led to become an owner in the company. So you can see everything's just rolling. So life's flying. Success, it sounds like from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, well, are you complaining? No. But I'm trying to paint a picture that if you're not prioritizing Jesus through your successes, and you're not glorifying him and giving him the honor and the praise and the glory, and get out of yourself, then you're going to fall. And that's kind of where I'm going. So we went from sales, right, being an operations manager. Next step was I got ownership in that company. That company turned into another company, and then by the time I was all over with, I was part of 5 different revenue streams, 5 different businesses that I was involved in. So from the outside looking in, you're like, that's amazing, how you get there, right? But again, I had lost my identity and lost my soul, though, because I was so involved in sports and work, and me and Tiffany, our marriage was always good. That's, praise the Lord that he always kept us close, even through our struggles, and she would tell you that. But we forgot where we came from, and it's, Proverbs like 30, scripture, I think it's verse 8 and 9, it talks about contentment. The Bible talks about contentment a lot. Give me just enough, not too little or not too much, right? Just enough is really where we needed to be, where I needed to be, because I was not spiritually strong enough to handle the blessing, right? To handle that. So then what happened next was, we're still flowing, and life's been good in that sense, but if I ever had to do things over again, I would probably change things. I'm gonna say something that's probably controversial here, and it's not real bad. Like travel ball, for example.
Oh yeah.
All right. If I had to do over again, we wouldn't have done that for all those years. Because here's what I think. Not every family is disciplined enough to be able to pull that off and keep their kids in line. Kudos to your family, because I've sensed that from your dad and your mom, but your dad, who I really got to meet. But I only met one Big Mike out of all those tournaments. I met one Big Mike. Every other dad I met, it's all ball, and was over obsessive about ball. And you think about how much money we spend on that. How many families get away from going to church? How many families get away from just spending time together? Because it separates the family. Like I said, I'll get some hate for that quote, but I think it hurts. It hurts our American families, and the families. The divorce rate stuff's already so high. But again, we idolize something that's not what we're supposed to idolize, and we was doing that, And I was again. I got saved. My heart was right, but I wasn't putting God first, and I was just teetering the line. So, most people could probably say, "Well, he seemed like a good guy, Christian dude," but I was on struggle bus bad. Okay. But we went through those years, and it worked out in that sense. COVID hit. A lot of stuff hit. Stress got real bad. We was the kind of the frog in the frying pan syndrome. You ever heard that?
No, I haven't.
So it's like it's in the pan. It gets so hot, you just don't realize it's that hot yet. Meaning the pressure has gotten so hot. Like they would say, you put a frog in the frying pan and you see him jump or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Thinking of it.
but that's what happened to me and your mom. And we got away from who we were. We got away from Jesus. We got too caught up in life. And yes, and I'm thankful where you are today, and I'm thankful where Bo is too. Bo, it's he did the same thing, travel ball, had the opportunity to go to college, do all that all that was good and everything. But God's been so good, because we're not worthy for who you guys have turned out to be. We're really not. We've done good, but I just don't feel worthy about it sometimes. It just I think about how I was as a kid. Like, man, Lord, you've been so good to me. So I'm gonna land the plane, but it's COVID hit, stress, the frog in the frying pan. I'm telling you where I was going here. The stress got so enormous. We was trying to build a house during COVID. Also was trying to sell 3 companies during COVID. And so in a business sense, if you're trying to sell a company, if you've never been through it, you won't really understand how stressful that is. Oh, that was some of the worst stress. Like, it was so bad. I'm a healthy guy. I take care of myself. I've always that's a priority in my life. Take care of yourself. But the stress so bad, I had to go to the doctor and get EKGs on, and because my heart was out of rhythm. It was just, everything was a mess. The stress level was enormous. But we thought we was doing right, because that's what the world says. You got to go be an entrepreneur. You got to go set the world on fire, be a millionaire, do all these things. And, you can do all that. You can have a massive house, but not have a home, right? If Jesus is saying, if he ain't in your home, don't matter what size your home is. I can have a hut. If he's in there, then I'm happier than a big old house, right? And that's what had happened, and the companies did sell and all that happened. And over these I've been out of that business now. And I'm so thankful for the business, but I've been gone away for over 3.5 years. And people ask me all the time, so what are you doing now? I'm coaching high school girls softball. And what's so funny?
And you're a farmer.
And I'm a farmer, yes. I'm a wannabe farmer.
I love it.
And I'm a coach. And I've also did some physical fitness stuff and things like that. But the most important thing that's happened over the last 2 or 3 years is I realized, I'm 47 now, but and this is where we can't ever lose. We can't ever think we're too old to learn. But I realized I was so wrong, and my continue to tell you, our relationship with Jesus is stronger now than it's ever been, and I'm so thankful. There's no money, there's no company, there's no sale that can happen that could replace what's happened with our relationship with the Lord. And a couple, was it 2 summers ago, I told you all, I said, hey man, we got to get back into going to church faithfully. And I remember I said, man, we're going to this church.
Me and you were driving, and you're like, that church?
Yep.
And I'm like, no, I never even looked at it. Like, we're going Sunday. I was like, all right, let's go then.
You was all for it.
Man, I was all for it. I don't know why. I'm so thankful that I was, but I was all for it. And we drug Mom with us because she was like, new, ooh, But no, we're like, nope, you're coming with us too.
And that was a Holy Spirit driven thing. And I am so, like I said, I mean, I can't tell you guys how overwhelmed that I am that God, and I think about it, when Jesus was on the cross, right? He's getting ready to get, crucified, and he looks at them and he says, for they know not what they do, right? That's whoo. I knew it. That kind of love is just, that's just one little snippet of the word that is so beautiful. Because I think I feel like those people sometimes. You make me cry, Emerson.
What?
I looked at her. But that kind of love, though, is what it's all about, right? And I know you also did the fruits of the Spirit about love, but could you, just imagine that. Can you imagine being on a cross and people are spitting on you and throwing things at you, and how are you going to have that kind of love for them, And I just feel like I'm not worthy, and but he's been so good to me, for the young kid that was in all the mess in the world, that odds and statistics say should have been divorced, probably put in prison, and all these other things in life. To be where I'm sitting right now is, and it's not where we live or homes or company. I don't care about none of that. All I care is that, man, I am so blessed because my family's healthy. They all know Jesus. They all love Jesus. They all have a heart for Jesus. And that's my wife, my daughter, my son. And you guys are so uniquely different too. It's so funny, like there's all three just so different in the way, but God has just put such a I'm not worthy of that. I'm just not worthy, and it just blows my mind, like I am where I am right now. But that just goes to show, I think if anybody's listening, that's listening to this, and there will be people that's going to hear it. No matter if you're that, you're that person, that young guy that just can't get away from sin, and there's a better place, there's something better in your life. There is, and it's not as hard as you're making it. You can make it a lot easier. Just start reading your word, and the answers are there to everything you're doing. They're all right there. And it's like I said, I'm not worthy. I'm so thankful. And again, to the older person, if you've gotten off, if you didn't sow your seeds on good ground, all right, reset them, man. Resow them. If it's been getting choked out by thorns, you got to recognize, and that's what happened to us. It got choked out, not completely, but it did. And like I said, we got numb to it. And but now, man, praise the Lord, because I don't know what He's going to do next, and I'm having to learn to walk in faith. And I'm still, to this day, right now, I'm still struggling with that a little bit. But I think we're always a work in progress. And I tell Summer that. Me and Summer have some deep talks.
We do.
And me and Bo do too. But right now I'm trying to walk by faith, and and that's the key. And just like being down here today. So, but again, that's kind of, I think that's it. I think that's full. And there's a lot more to it I didn't even say, but that's a lot.
Part 2.
Part 2.
Yeah, thank you all so much though, and that was good.
Thank you so much for sharing your testimony. I've always loved your story, and I'm gonna cry because you know me, I'm a little baby. I'm a little baby. I ain't gonna lie. Mom told me when I told my testimony, she was like, you gotta stop crying so much. And I'm like, that's just who I am though. I'm just very emotional, and I'm just so thankful for God's mercy and grace that He showed our family, and for just putting us all together. And what stuck with me was at the beginning when you said that you've always wanted to be a dad. Like, you just knew. You know what I mean? And you're such a good dad. And I know you talk about not being worthy, but I don't deserve parents like you guys that have set me up to love the Lord like I do. And I'm just really grateful for that. Hearing you say that you've always wanted to be a dad, you're a dang good dad. So you should be very proud of yourself. So that's, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Oh boy. All right. Any hoodle. Do you have any questions, Em?
Do you have any questions?
I need to breathe for a second.
Okay, yeah, I have some questions if that's okay.
I love it. Yeah, I'm having a blast because if you didn't know, this kind of stuff is like, I'm not scared of a microphone.
So sorry.
Yeah, that's good. I can tell.
And I do have one more thing to say at the end, but I'll say that here in a second.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. I guess one of the questions I have is you talked about how that community that you had in the first church you went to, right as you started to find Christ and know who that is. Just like how important do you think that role is for a Christian or unbeliever? How important is the role of community within the church in your life and to everybody? Because I know that when we were at Murray, like the BCM, that community was super important to my walk in faith. So just go into that of how that community helped shape you and how important that role is in the lives of Christians and unbelievers.
That's a fantastic question. I'm not just saying it to sound cool, right? It's a lot of people say that's a great question. No, that is a really good question. And here's why it's so good. Because this morning I just literally got to tell him, so my mom was at my house, and she's what I want to talk about at the end real quick, but she was at my house and we was talking about that a little bit. I was telling her that how it's so, it's not that the people don't necessarily need, in my opinion, we don't need the next big, go to the next big revival, so to speak. We need a community of people that we can sit down and have discussion, because a lot of people, they struggle with the Bible. The Bible is not necessarily easy. So I think community is key. Fellowship is key. And then being able just to talk about the fundamentals of the Bible, right? It'd be like softball in the sense, like if you all couldn't do the fundamentals, you'd never get to where you are today, right? So it's the same analogy when it comes to our faith, our walk. If we don't have the word in us and our fundamentals are not right, you're not going to get to where you need to go, right? Again, it's going to be like, he's going to be like, I never knew you, right? Because you didn't really, get in your word. You never had a relationship with me. So I think to your question, how do I think, or you asked, how is that? You said that again.
I can't even remember. How important is the role of community? I think.
Yeah, that's good.
I think it's. I mean, just Emerson. I think it's so vital. I think it's probably most. In my opinion, it's one of the most important things right now, especially in the day and time we live in. There's no reason we have this many churches on every corner, and there shouldn't be more community and more. Again, trying to raise people up. Like I said, a good sermon is good. It's all great. It's flash and dash. It's great. But if you don't walk away with really getting something that you're going to carry into Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday through the whole week, then it's just words, right? Yeah. So, good question. That's good.
That kind of, if it's okay if I ask a few more, or you can go ahead, or
no, I think your questions are good. I'm just over here. I'm just gonna get emotional more. We don't need that. We need questions. So I think you're gonna just take the reins on the questions today, Em.
I was gonna that leads into another question I have. You talked about going on mission trips and coming back and like feeling no empathy for people's lives, which like totally understand that. Like you said, I've been on a couple myself, and it's like, man, what we think is such an inconvenience. Are you serious? But going more into that is when you go on these mission trips and people come back. So like sometimes whenever I come back, I'm like, what is my purpose? Like, I'm over in this third world country constantly just evangelizing, and like that is a clear purpose of what I'm supposed to do while I'm there. So when we come back to our safe home, like what encouragement could you provide to people struggling with that, like not loss of purpose, but almost feeling useless with our time? Like, because we have jobs, we have a life, we have all these other things going on instead of just being so focused on evangelizing and sharing the gospel. Does that make sense?
It does.
I can word it different.
No. It's I get what you're, what's that saying you like to say?
Smelling what you're stepping in.
Smelling what you're stepping in.
I used to struggle with that a lot. I'm a very purpose-driven kind of guy. I like to know what my purpose is, and that's one thing I've struggled with a lot the last couple of years, just as I left, that old career. But I heard the other day, I think when it comes to our purpose in life, I think the Bible, this is just my opinion, I think the Bible, it clearly lays out for us, like you said, the fruits of the Spirit earlier when y'all did that on your podcast that I listened to on the way down, the one that come out today. Everybody needs to listen to that. So good. It's not as long as this, but
it's a quick hitter.
It's a quick hitter, but it's good.
Right.
But you think about all the fruits of the Spirit. We're supposed to, exercise those every single day, right? Mm-hmm. And you guys, y'all named them off and did a great job. But I think our purpose, I think we're supposed to apply the principles of the Bible, the fundamentals, and then I think that to find our purpose, I think you got to look, because we're all uniquely and wonderfully made. I think we have to look at the way we're made and just look at what you're good at. Look at what maybe somebody brags on you about. Did I say that right? Mm-hmm. Brags on you about. And then, you apply the principles of the Word and the Bible to the talents that He's made you, that He's put on you right in the season of life. And I think that's our purpose for the current moment in the season of life we're in. Because I think we can get too hung up on, we can get maybe stressed out if we don't feel a really good, clear, like God come down and say, well, Jeremy, it's time to go be an evangelistic preacher, right now, and it's because I haven't heard that, but the Holy Spirit does work in me, and He worked in me last night. I told you about an event from last night, just a moment where it's just such a cool moment. I was having a conversation with somebody that I probably a couple of years ago, we kind of had a little bit of rough experience together. And I just, the Bible tells us if we have an issue with someone, we have to go make it right. And at the place and the setting I was in, there were so many people around us, right? But it hit me. I'm like, all right, Lord, I'm going to do it. So I looked at her and I said, hey, I got to get something off my chest. And it felt like everybody else was gone, even though the room was full. It was a library and there was a lot of people in there. And I just told her, I said, hey, I got to apologize to you. I didn't handle things right a couple of years ago, and I felt really convicted that I haven't done it yet. But right now I'm going to tell you, I got to get this off my chest. Mm-hmm. But at that moment, I feel like I'm living out a purpose.
Yeah.
Right? I'm living out God's, just for that day. But again, I'm giving you a long answer, but I think there's so many things in the Bible that we all are commissioned to every day. Because He tells us to go out and tell the world, right?
Yeah.
You guys do a good job of that. Y'all did this not long ago. Didn't y'all hit somebody up at like a bakery or something that y'all started talking for a couple hours or something like that?
It was actually a
foster home.
The foster home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, we did. But that was cool.
Yeah, it was.
Cool experience.
But I honestly, I think until God, I think He does lay that on, like, there are some people that are called to be prophets and pastors and teachers, and right now you guys are called to be podcasters right now, and
ain't that awesome?
It is amazing, and you guys are doing phenomenal, and He's going to do big things, and but I think for anybody else that maybe struggles with that, I think you just got to look at how you was made, and then look at the fundamentals and just go do them.
Yeah, that's good.
That's just my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree.
I think I have 2 more questions, maybe, if that's okay.
I love questions, man. We could do this all day. But I'm just kind of worried that y'all's listeners ain't going to listen this long.
If you're still here, you're like
a real one.
A real one. That's good.
Do what?
If they're still like here, if they're still listening.
Oh yeah,
I'm just saying, like, hey, you're a real one. Hey, Miss Christy.
My next question would be, with those going through tragedy, what advice could you give? Because you talked about how that was a tragedy, like literally not even a month after you found faith in Jesus, that happened in your life. And you said, like, you were filled with anger, like it all came back, and instead of turning into that anger and being conformed to the anger, you chose a different path. You chose Christ. And you said that there are some in your family that chose it completely different. Like, so like I asked, with those going through tragedy, what advice could you give to them? What encouragement could you give to them to not conform to that anger? and find hope in Christ?
Well, my immediate answer to that would be, again, it goes back to your faith. Now, for me at that moment, my faith was real young, right? Mm-hmm. But I think the more that we can not be intimidated by the word, but get in the word, and because all the answers are there. You know, there's more than one answer to what happened to my grandparents, right? But for that moment, for me, God was like, "Here, you dummy, I'm going to highlight it and I'm going to put it right out here for you." But there's more than just one answer to that, right? So my answer would be to people going through those things would be just to get in the Word, and then again surround yourself with good people that are like-minded, and get in the Word, study the Word, and you're going to find the answers. Every answer to life, that we're going through, any problems we have is right there. So that would be my advice, because you can't go wrong with that.
Right. Yeah. That's good. And then the last question I have is, you've lived a lot of life, clearly, and
I know I'm old, right?
Oh no!
That's where we was going.
She just called you an old fart.
Yep, basically.
That's okay.
But just you've lived, you've been through a lot of life, just a bunch of stuff has happened to you, and you've been through a lot. And so I asked my dad the same question of what is the most valuable piece of maybe advice, or what would you, if you could only say one thing to people and leave people with one thing in this life, what would that be? I don't know how I worded it.
No, that's perfect.
Does that make sense? I can word it.
If you had to leave people with one thing to walk away from this podcast with, one thing in your life, that best piece of advice, best piece of knowledge, something that is your not motto, but you know what I mean, what would that be? I think that's what she's trying to say.
Yeah
That's a good question. I remember you asking him that too, now that you bring it up. I don't have a motto right yet. I'm trying to give you a really good answer to that. Life advice. Well, I think
you can take a minute.
I think what makes that tough is because you're talking to believers or non-believers.
Both.
Everybody.
You can do two separate ones, because you're right. It could apply differently to
either one.
People. Yeah.
I think I think I don't know. My answer wants to just go back to, as far as life advice and is nothing, like I said, nothing ever gets away from the truth of the Bible, and I'm just now, if I could say anything, man, I'm 47 years old, and I would do things so much differently. I know I kind of harped on the travel ball thing and how I think it's hard for families, but if I could do even many years before that, it's growing up harder and tough or whatnot, and not having no families, but if you can figure out a way just to get in the Word in life and let that be your guide, your roadmap. I mean, if that's your roadmap, you don't need. Oh, and I got on such a bad kick of this about 5-6 years ago. You don't need another podcast of how to go make millions and be an entrepreneur and take all this advice from worldly people that a lot of times they've just taken the gospel and quote unquote changed it to make it fit their selling point. Jesus already said that, bud. That's already in the Word. You need life advice. You want to be great, read your Word. If you want to go through difficulties, read your Word. It's all right there. So my advice be, if I could do over again, I would have been in my Word, at a young age, and I would have leaned on that with everything for all my understanding, right?
Yeah.
So that would be my advice. Just, man, if I could do it over again, that'd be it.
That's good.
It's a better life. Yeah.
I've tried, so hopefully that was okay.
No, I like that
perfect.
a lot.
Yeah.
Read your
Okay.
word. I like
Read your word.
Get in the word and let that be your roadmap.
Yeah.
It
I
is.
like that a lot.
It is your roadmap so much. And it don't matter how old you are. And I'll say this real quick. I know it's already went long. Might as well go ahead and
Yeah.
But my mom just recently got saved, and
Woo!
I'm sure Emerson's.
Yes.
I've showed her.
Yes,
Yeah.
that, she's 70. Two?
Ooh, I was gonna get
She's in the
trouble.
70s. That's all right. She'll be all right.
She's 72.
72.
She'll be all right.
Yeah, but she has childlike faith.
She's 71.
Okay.
She's 71
All
because
right.
I made her cookies for her birthday, and I
Yeah.
did the 71 on the cookies. She's gonna get
Uh-oh.
mad if she's listening to this.
She'll be all
We can
right.
cut it out.
No, leave it in there because
Okay.
I like getting her fired up anyway. But she likes to pick at my age. But here's the cool thing, it never matter. It doesn't matter how old you are either. No matter what you've done, no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, you can still change. You can still give your heart to Christ, and He's going to love you just like He did on the cross, right? When He said that, like even the other, when He the thief and told him, I'm gonna see, I'll see you in paradise. Imagine that too. You know what I mean? It's just so, man, He's just so, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't, and I've seen in her a massive change, and seeing her have, because the Bible says we should be like children with our faith and our heart, and man, she's got that right now, and it's really cool. And we had a Bible study the other day, me and her, and it was just awesome. Just to have that moment is really, really, really awesome. And
It's so beautiful.
That's
when she
awesome.
calls me and she's like, "Me and your dad just got done having a Bible study," and I'm like, "Wow, we had to buy her like the extra large giant print so she can read it."
I love that.
But God's so good.
well, and I'll say this too. I think we all go through different seasons in life, and like for me right now, I'm in a season. I know we was joking earlier. The farm. The farm has been good for me in the sense because I'm alone a lot. But I like to be mingle and be with people in the sense, but it's also giving me time to be with the Lord more. And my prayer life is really up there, because when it's just you and cutting wood or messing with trying to build a fence, there's gonna be a lot of praying going on. It's just that's been happening. And then the softball thing. I love sports in the sense, but I have a whole new perspective of that too, and the lives that I'm able to touch doing that. Right now, I've got a special group, and you know how much I care for this group.
They're a good group of girls.
Good group of kids, and I also shouldn't say kids; they're young ladies. But I think God's using me in that moment, and I'm not so worried about shallow wins and losses. Yeah, I want to win. I'm competitive, but I'm trying to help them win at life and trying to be an example for them. And I'm sure their parents are great people, but if I can be anything of a good influence for them, that's what I'm trying to do. And I know several of them, they prick my heart thinking about them right now. More than likely, if you got 15 people that you're working with, out of those 15, probably 8 to 9, maybe 10 of them might need a prayer of something.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to what there's so many ways to get out here and try to do God's work. And right now I'm doing it, and I'm thankful for the season I'm in too with that as well. So I love doing that. But I got off on a tangent, but talking about Janice, and I want to put that plug in there for my kids back home.
That's good.
That is good.
Yeah. That's all the questions I have.
Yeah, and I think she hit the high points and all the kind of questions I had to discuss too. So.
Would y'all really tell me if we went too long?
That's really good.
Here's our motto with this.
We have a motto.
We
Our
have a
motto
motto
for the length of our podcast: go as long as you feel the value of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like,
absolutely.
if we haven't reached the value point of the podcast yet, and it's 3 hours, we're gonna continue on until the value of the podcast gets there.
Yeah.
If it happens in the first 10 minutes of a podcast, like if the value's there, we'll just stop it at 10 minutes. So that's our motto with that.
Yeah.
So you definitely didn't go too long.
Well, that's a good motto, because you're letting the Spirit lead it,
absolutely.
right? Not putting it on man's timeline, putting it on His timeline.
Right.
So that's so good. That's so good.
And it's like whatever you think needs to be said, whatever the Lord is trying to speak through you. If that's going to take 2 hours, if that's going to take 3 hours to get through, let's do it. But or if it's like our love podcast and it was,
25, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Something like that, 30 something.
But that's what needed to go down. So
That's good.
But if you have, do you have anything else?
No.
Emerson, do you have anything else?
That's
No.
Well,
I don't think so.
well, before we, pray, just want to thank you again for coming on the podcast. It is really heartwarming and special to me to have you on here. So,
thank you.
Yeah, of course. But we end every podcast with a prayer.
Okay.
We'd love if you would like to pray for our listeners, pray for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Pray for,
definitely. Okay. Are we ready?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
All right, let's bow our heads. All right, dear Lord, we just thank you, Lord, for the time and the setting, Lord. Thank you for the opportunity, and Lord, thank you for the opportunity that this conversation can reach more than just the three of us in this room, Lord, but it can go out and hopefully touch a life. If it's just one, so be it. Lord, I just pray, God, that something that was said today can help, someone, help a father, help a child, help someone in need. And God, I just pray, Lord, I pray for this ministry that you have going right here, right now. Lord, pray for these young ladies that are on fire for you. Lord, I pray that they would run the race of at a steadfast pace, Lord, and run it with the way that you want them to do it, Lord, and pray, God, that you be with them and be with these listeners that are going to be out there, and it's going to continue to expand. And Lord, I just pray that you would continue to grow it, continue to grow them in their faith, and grow this ministry and everyone who listens. And Lord, we love you, we praise you, and we're so honored and so grateful to be here and to be a part of something that you're doing, not us, but what you're doing. And we thank you, Lord. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. That's good. That was really good. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Get in the Word and let that be your roadmap. And that's God.